Hello, and welcome to our webinar on veteran hiring from a transatlantic perspective. I'm Senna, and I work in client services at Indotronics. I've been in the staffing industry for over a decade, and I come from a military family, so this is particularly important to me. If you have any questions about veteran hiring or any of the topics we discuss, we will address them at the end, so feel free to put them in the chat. For the past 20 years, Indotronics has had a unique interest in supporting veterans whenever possible. We actively manage a formal hiring program in an effort to support and employ veteran community as much as possible. Kyle Lalo co-manages our veteran hiring program at Indotronics. Kyle, can you say a few words about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. My name is Kyle Lalo, and I'm Director of Client Services here at Indotronics. And as Cinna mentioned, I co-manage our veteran hiring program here for the company in the US. I've been in the staffing industry for over 20 years, and much of that time I've been managing staffing teams that support the aerospace and defense industry. So of course, veteran hiring is important to me for that reason. It serves our customers. But beyond that, like Cinna, I am also a military spouse. My wife was in the Air Force for over 20 years. She's now retired. And so I've enjoyed being part of, that veteran community, the military community over those years. And I'm happy to be here today to talk about the similarities and differences between the US and the UK as far as veteran hiring goes.
Thank you, Kyle. In the past 2 years, Indotronics has expanded operations to the UK. In doing so, we've hired Ray Webb as part of our team in London. Ray is a veteran Royal Marine who has firsthand knowledge and experience as a UK military veteran. With that, I'll turn this over to Ray and let him introduce himself as well. Ray?
Thank you for the intro, Cinna. Thank you very much. Yes, as Cinna said, I was in the military for 5 years, part of the armed forces, working with all aspects of the military, including the Navy, Air Force, special forces, and other forces from different countries as well. I'm currently in the process of rejoining as a reservist to serve as a rifleman and a PTI. It seems like I just can't get enough. So I've experienced firsthand the transition from veterans moving into civilian life, and have also experienced the difficulties this can have on individuals and their families. So being part of a military family to then depart the military to embark on a life as a civilian can be very, very difficult and challenging. So hopefully we can tackle most of these points today.
Thank you so much for introducing yourself. And I know you have such an interesting background and perspective on this, so thank you. Moving on, these are just some of the topics that we'll cover today. This is a little different discussion as we'll be comparing and contrasting both respective markets. So you'll see some different things our panelists will discuss on this slide. And just a reminder, if you have any questions, just put them in the chat, and at the end, we will try to get to as many as possible. Before we start, I do just want to highlight some of the differentiators at Indotronics Avani. We were named one of the largest staffing firms in the US by Staffing Industry Analyst for 2023. We have a footprint in the US, India, UK, and Canada, with more to come. And we service over 55 Fortune 500 companies and government clients. Here are just some key statistics. I want to start this off by discussing the state of the veteran hiring in each market. Kyle, what are the trends you're seeing in the US in terms of veteran hiring?
Yeah, so as far as the US is concerned, as the slide states there, the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported in 2020, that was their last major report, that 5.6% of the total civilian workforce is represented by veterans. Veterans represent 5.6% of the civilian workforce. But if you pull out, the aerospace and defense industry, that number ticks quite a bit higher by nature of the work they do. So Boeing, for example, they report that 14.6% of their workforce is military veterans. And even here at Indotronics, you know, 12 to 13% of our workforce is military veterans. Not only because it serves our customers, but you know, we have a veteran hiring program. We make an effort to serve that community. As far as unemployment goes, in 2022, last year, the BLS reported that the overall unemployment rate for veterans is 2.8%, which is lower than that of non-veterans, 3.6%. So what we can glean from that is, you know, veterans are probably more employable. They probably stay on the job longer, and that's why, you know, less of them are unemployed than the greater community. So that's the state in the US. How about you, Ray?
Well, on our side, well, how it works for the UK, the number of veterans at the present time in the UK probably equates to around over 1.8 million in England and Wales. 76.3 of them have served in regular forces, 19.5 of them have served in reserve forces, and 4.3% served in both the regular and reserve forces of the UK Armed Forces veterans in England and Wales. Now, in looking at some facts from 2021, 2022, service leavers reported a higher rate of employment of 87% compared to 2020 to 2021, where service leavers had 83%. Now, this was due to a increase in job opportunities following the market recovering from post-COVID, which I'm quite sure everybody can understand. So, yeah, so currently unemployment is at a percentage of 2.8% from 2022, and this is for veterans compared to the overall unemployment of standard civilian, which is at 3.57%. So that's come down, and it's getting better, I should say.
Are there any specific industries in each market that, you know, lead or even maybe lag in veteran hiring?
Would you like? Do you mind who goes
Oh, you
first?
can. Yeah, no, it doesn't matter either of you. It's okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So in terms of the veteran hiring, like those that are from within the UK, it may be the same in the US, but ones that tend to be very buoyant with veteran hiring are industries that, whether it be government, security cleared personnel, law enforcement, drivers, maintenance, healthcare and nursing, teaching and education, and transportation. It seems like the main reason why veterans tend to be hired into these markets is because their transferable skills and what they actually use and utilize whilst they're in service match these industries very well. Like, for instance, in terms of government, when you're in the military, you obviously you sign the Official Secrets Act, etc., and there's certain rules and protocols what you have to follow. Also in the military, you have to be security cleared. So getting a role out of the military where you need that security clearance, it kind of helps because you've already got it. Law enforcement, having to be in very, very difficult situations where, whether it be domestic, whether it be dealing with things with civilians on the street, etc., having that experience, first-hand experience in your face on the battlefield, then being in law enforcement, it kind of works because you've got those skills to be able to deal with those stresses as well. On the driver side, a lot of individuals within the military would get a LGV, HGV license as well. So then they can go into driving. A lot of individuals work on aircraft, tanks, submarines. So then they get experience with maintenance. And every single soldier on the battlefield will learn basic first aid. So hence they could go into healthcare and nursing as well. And you're constantly teaching your oppos, you're constantly learning stuff as well. So teaching and education is very important. And the fact that as a soldier, you're traveling around all the time, you kind of like get a knack for having an interest in transportation. So a lot of individuals go into that as well. So yeah, is it similar for you, Carl?
Yeah, almost identical. So of course, like aerospace and defense and regulated industries, healthcare, medical, financial, they definitely target veterans. But in the U.S. and it's probably similar in the U.K. There's certain companies that that don't tend to, or certain industries that don't tend to hire veterans or target them as much. So, for
Yeah,
example, like I lived in Seattle for almost 10 years, and I supported those big Seattle Bay Area companies like Amazon, Microsoft, Expedia, and they had veteran hiring programs, but like you didn't see them making a huge effort to target veterans, and that's just due to the nature of their work. Like they needed niche high-tech skill sets to serve their companies. But that's not to say the military isn't high tech. It's as high tech as it's ever been. But
yeah,
the high tech in the military, that technology is usually developed and managed by defense contractors.
mhm,
So those employees of those companies are doing that work rather than the military itself in many cases. So you're not going to see those skill sets coming out of the military. And then, certain service industries like hotel and restaurant management and, low general labor, like you don't see them target veterans as much either. And veterans
yeah.
themselves may not be interested in that kind of work. They don't typically apply to those kinds of roles either. Is it similar in the UK, Ray?
Yeah, it's I was actually thinking about this today. It's one of the things where I feel like when someone's a veteran or worked in that high kind of pressured environment, you need to be stimulated when you come out of the service. So
Yeah.
someone going from, I don't know, working, being in the military, being a soldier, being a rifleman, and then being a usher in a hotel, it doesn't really work for them. Not that there's anything wrong with being an usher in a
Right.
hotel. Like, look, good,
Exactly.
good on you. Easy life, easy life. But yeah, in the UK, obviously the veteran market, like people like participate in like hiring programs and stuff like that. There are independent programs which sometimes tend to be run by um, companies directly or national schemes endorsed by the UK government, etc. Um, Now, one of such schemes is the ERS, which is an employment recognition scheme. What this tends to do is encourage employers to support, develop, and inspire others to do the same. The scheme kind of encompasses a standard of like bronze and silver and gold for employers, organisations, so that they can pledge towards it. And obviously, this demonstrates or gives support to the defence and the armed forces community, aligning with their values, with something which is called the Armed Forces Covenant, which I'm able to disclose in more details shortly. Do they have things like that over in the US as well, Carl?
Yeah, for sure. So, like in the US, veteran hiring programs, in my opinion, kind of fall into three buckets. So, like
Mhm.
the first bucket is fully sponsored government paid for programs, and a big one is SkillBridge. SkillBridge is a program funded by the government where employers can apply to become a SkillBridge partner, and they post their
Okay, yeah,
jobs. Yeah, they post jobs for people separating from the military to apply to. And the, the government, so if they're selected, they kind of engage in like an internship, and the government helps pay for that. So that's a huge one in the US, and then also states here in the US. So, like the state of Texas has a robust veteran program that's managed by their unemployment division. They have a brick and mortar office in every city, pretty much in Texas,
mhm,
where vets can go meet a counselor, get their resume posted, and they help them find work. And lots of states have that, but Texas does a great job, and we've partnered with Texas here at Indotronics. So that's bucket one. The other is like civilian government partnerships. Those are typically called TAPS, transition assistance programs, and there's thousands of them. And
yeah,
they are national, but they usually engage at the base level at the military bases. Each base has a transition office for people separating, and companies and transition assistance program meet there to help these people find work. And then the third bucket is external organizations that tend to serve veterans more than people just separating. So these could be nonprofits or for-profit organizations, but they serve veterans more so, like to help them with career paths. So common ones here, and you may have heard of these, is like Hiring Our Heroes or Wounded Warrior. Those are popular, and they serve the community here. So how does that compare to UK?
Yeah, very similar. Obviously the UK, one of the things what we have in the UK, I mentioned like the ERS, and this is something that's designed primarily to like recognise private sector support, although like public sector support organisations such as emergency services, local authority, eligible to be recognised for this as well. So yeah.
So Ray,
but as you know, obviously,
is ERS, is that was that developed by the government, or how was that strategy or scheme formed? Like where did that birth?
It was the government that decided to put this in place because they realised that there was a gap where veterans were not getting recognised. They were coming out of service, and then there was just a void. They just fall into a void where they're either looking for work, they haven't got that support. The companies that are out there don't have a platform in order to try and get veterans into their programs, etc. So this is why this was initially created. But then going off the back of that, I mentioned earlier the Armed Forces Covenant. Now, what the Armed Forces Covenant is, this is an organisation which encourages businesses to join. And when they do, they then have an obligation to aim to employ veterans into their business, as there is a shared understanding of the value of veterans and the benefits of veteran hiring. Now, the Military Covenant or the Armed Forces Covenant is a term which was actually introduced in around the year 2000 into the British public life to refer to the mutual obligations between the United Kingdom and the British Armed Forces. Now, one of the things what the Armed Forces Covenant state is that this is a pledge that together we acknowledge and understand that those who serve or have served in the armed forces and their families should be treated with fairness and respect in the communities, economy, and society they serve with their lives. Basically meaning that we want to help you get into work. We want to treat you fairly. We want to make sure that your skills and your experience is recognised. So let's help you obviously get into those companies. And when companies go and sign up for this, they then recognise that, yep, Marine A, he's got these skills, blah, blah, blah. This soldier's got these skills, they're transferable, perfect. And then they'll help to upskill them or help to bring them into the business, etc., and basically get them on that career path, which one they deserve, and also what they're interested in doing. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Great. Ray, sorry, Kyle, you've been to several events this year related to veteran hiring. Can you just touch on those a little bit, maybe?
A lot of walking. a lot of walking in these events. One of the events, which I'm not too sure if you've heard of, but it's sometimes they go to different countries as well, but it's called DSEI, Defence and Security Equipment International. Now, this is a trade exhibition which it tends to serve as a forum between governments, national armed forces, industry, and academics. So anyone can attend these events, but what you would find there is that you get everyone from your college leaver, veterans, current serving individuals who are there from all over the globe. But when I was there this year, I met with the Dutch Navy, and I met with other people from the Belgian Navy, and I also met a couple of generals there, which I'm not going to say their names, but I met some of those individuals there as well. But the beauty of of an event like this is because you can actually go and see the new technologies. You can go and see the opportunities that are potentially there for civilian or veteran to go into these kind of roles. But then at the same time, as a veteran, you can go and have conversations about what you've done in the past and where potentially that fits with what this client or company is looking to do in the future. Which is great, and also it's just a great place to network, because you never know what somebody else is working on, what systems they're working on, what a company's doing. But you go to this, and as it's an expo, you get to see the new technologies, you get to hear about new safety equipment, you get to hear about operations that have happened where certain equipment was used or certain software was used, and a veteran who they brought on board, what they've done and developed for the business, etc. So you hear all the success stories at the same time. So that's one of them. But then one of the other important events as well, expos I went to this year, was a security cleared expo. Now, this tended to be more of a careers fair for individuals who are security cleared, which could be a SC clearance, DV clearance, have a NATO clearance, etc. Now, again, this expo is free to attend, and it gives the individual access to all the exhibition stands and speaking sessions. Now, it's ideal for ex-forces to gain insight into additional pathways and opportunities for further employment. And it's also ideal for individuals who are veterans to go there to have one-to-one engaging conversations with clients about them, their future, where it fits. And rather than them just searching on job boards, you can just actually go and see people and talk to them there, which, as any of you guys know, seeing people face to face, having a conversation sometimes is so much more effective than emails, sending
Yeah.
CVs. There's more of a likability factor when you're in front of someone and talking to them. You can, the employers can gauge, okay, yeah, this veteran knows what he's talking about. He knows about these systems, and it's so much easier for them to do as well. And that's why these expos are really good to attend. And firsthand, I've attended a few this year, and yeah, very, very successful for individuals there, I would say.
Would there be US based companies there? Like, would you see any US, like Boeing or any of those companies there? Or is it
Yes,
mostly UK? Yeah.
so what's good, a large number of the companies what you deal with over in the US, they have over in the UK as well. So
Yeah.
for instance, you mentioned Boeing. There are most probably 95% of the top defense clients that are over in the US were over in the UK. But then also at the same time as well, when you're at these expo events, they have certain areas where you'll have defense companies from the Netherlands there in a big stand. You have defense companies from Norway, Sweden, etc. Which the beauty of this is that you then get to see how the UK or whatever country it is, how they have coalitions with other countries working on the defense of their borders, or the defense and the upgrades of their security equipment, etc. So it then gives individuals who potentially are veterans who's got additional skills like language skills, or who's traveled or who's from a different country, they can also then go and speak to these other companies from other countries and be like, oh yeah, I'm actually Swedish, I live in Sweden, and they can talk to them about their military opportunities, etc. So it it is a very, very good pathway for individuals to go to these expos and see what's going on. So there are multinational companies there, um, obviously advertising what they do and what they're looking to do. So there's ample opportunity for individuals to go there.
Yeah.
What about, since we're already touching on this, what about any organizations that, may offer aid to veterans and their families? Is there anything like that in the UK?
Yeah, one of the organisations which I personally used when I came out was a company called CTP, Career Transition Partnership. Now, they work with businesses to provide resettlement services for those leaving the Royal Navy, Army, Royal Air Force, Royal Marines, regardless of their time served as well. So they're a very, very good company. I was actually at an event held for them by them last week, at one of our clients' establishments, which the client was happy enough to lend it out for them for the day. But they're very good. They will work with businesses in order to help upskill veterans to get them into jobs, to make sure that they're just not left by the wayside and forgotten about. Because as you know, veterans, there's certain skills what they've got which are completely different just from the standard civilian, because they're having to develop these skills under extremely pressurized situations as well, and they're still having to be functional with everything else what's going on around you and still be effective at their job. So having an individual that's able to deal with that amount of pressure and still be able to do what he needs to do or she needs to do is a very, very good quality to have, especially when people say on their CV, "I work well under pressure," and then you compare the pressures of what
But do you?
they're working with, etc. But then on top of that, there's another organisation which has been around for many, many years called the Royal British Legion. Now they help members of the Royal Navy, British Army.
Uh-oh.
They've just been around for longer, I remember a lot of people who was in things like Falkland Wars, etc. They then decided to come out and start joining with the Royal British Legion, getting help, getting assistance for resettlements, and helping with their family, helping with bills, etc. Because people tend to struggle, and helping them get into new jobs. So there are organisations out there. To be quite honest, there are probably a few more, but I probably could have went on for about an hour talking about them. But these are two.
Yeah.
But these are two that I've worked with previously. So yeah, just wanted to highlight that to you guys.
Great.
How, what are some of the challenges? I know you've been doing this for a while. So, what are some of the challenges with hiring veterans? Are there any?
Of course. So I'm sure both UK and US, we've already discussed, aerospace and defense companies. The challenge is unique for them because which is actually a good thing for veterans, is that, they need veterans by the nature of the work they do. So they are all vying for this very small candidate pool, which is great for veterans, but a big challenge to those companies. So, those companies need to do whatever they can to attract that talent, whether that's, write better job descriptions, engage better, pay more, whatever. Like that's a war on talent there in that situation. And I'm sure it's the same in the UK. All these companies that are in aerospace and defense need veterans to do their work. But beyond that, like the big problem is for everyone else, unemployment's kind of at an all-time low right now, and everybody's hiring. So these recruiting organizations are all getting beat up by managers. Hey, we need candidates right now. so the challenge there, and we're in that bucket. Like we don't have time. Like time and resources is a big challenge. Like
Yeah.
we need to go find candidates now. We may not have time to pay attention to our veteran hiring program. It's a huge balancing act. Is that similar in the UK, right?
Yeah, definitely it is. Like we always have clients screaming out, "Oh, well, we need this," and it's like, well, we know exactly how the market is. You could say there's a skill shortage, but there are a lot of individuals with these skills. It's just that they may be in a role, or they may be a veteran who's looking to come out, or who's recently come out, who they just want to up their skills. So like retraining like individuals to articulate as a civilian, not just a soldier, reintroducing things like empathy into their decision making, as on the battlefield there's no empathy, having to get them to realign themselves with all these additional traits into civvy street, as you want to call it. And without going into too much detail, things like post-traumatic stress disorders, trauma, hearing loss, illnesses caused by toxic exposure and other injuries, etc. They can show up years later and affect the state of life for these individuals. So veterans may potentially lose job or face crises down the road. So this is why it's very important that we harness the skills what they've got, help them upskill themselves, so then they're extremely valuable to the employer they're going into, etc. So despite the evident benefits, a persistent lack of understanding prevails regarding the key skills that veterans inherently possess. Surprisingly, like only 66% of large and medium organizations perceive veterans as having commendable communication skills. And this is, and yeah, I know. Who would have thought it? But then people need to recognise and have a appreciation of the diverse skill sets that those veterans bring to the workforce. And this is why, as an organisation, Indotronics and the clients what we work with, we like to highlight the benefit of having these veterans in your businesses, and the skills they bring, the experience they bring, the loyalty what they bring as well. And because we all know they would have had to be loyal, they would have had to be a person that sticks through the hard times, etc. And they're not going to run at the drop of, oh my goodness, it's a little bit harder today. They're going to accept it as a challenge, and that's the kind of person you need within your
Exactly.
that's the kind of
Yeah.
person you need within your business and your team.
Yeah. And, like skills alignment goes both ways. Like companies may not realize that veterans do indeed have skills that align with their jobs, and the same on the candidate side. Like people coming out of the military may not know or understand that the skills they have do align with certain jobs. And we've talked about that in the past on other webinars here,
Yeah.
that's a problem that that's where a veteran hiring program comes into play. You got to take time to figure that out so that you can not leave any stone unturned, and help these candidates out.
Yeah, and as I mentioned earlier, briefly, sometimes these veterans don't necessarily know how to articulate the skills that,
Yeah.
so they've never had a chance to just think for themselves and be like, right, I'm going to do this. They're not just going to do that because they've been taking orders. So when they then come to civilian street and they've got time to think for themselves, it's almost like they've got to rewire their brain, but they need assistance to rewire their brain to say, actually, I've got these skills, I've done that. I was responsible for this. I was working with this kind of equipment, delivering this. This is actually the skills I've got. I can do that job. And just giving them
Right.
that additional confidence. And that's one of the most important things for clients what we deal with, and veteran hiring programs, and just getting people to and organizations to recognize that these individuals have skills. You're crying
Yeah.
out for individuals with certain skills to be there today. Great, they've got the skills, but we just like to put the icing on the cake to make sure that that person's comfortable moving into that position. They've got the skills, they can do it. You're happy, we're happy, move forward.
Yeah.
That's great. Are there any ideas that either of you may have for future improvements to the state of veteran hiring? Kyle, I don't know. Do you have any
Sure.
ideas?
Yeah, I know we definitely do. So, I mean, to start with, be intentional. Um, do more than just talk about it. Um, have a veteran hiring program, and set up objectives and goals for that. Right, Ray?
Yes, most definitely. Obviously, when you say the thing be intentional, I know it seems like such a simple phrase, but it's got so much power behind it. You've actually
Yeah.
got to want this to work. If you don't say, look, this is what we want, it's not ever going to happen. So being intentional, most definitely, wanting to make sure that you're utilizing the right skills within your business, meaning that you need to start looking at these veterans who's been in those tough situations and then bringing them on board, because that would just add additional value to to your business and to the teams and make them stronger as well. Because you know you've got that individual in there who's been through the thick of it, who's come out still shining, still able to perform to the top level every single day, regardless what's going on around them. And yeah, we as a business like to help and unearth these individuals and get them at their best and almost show them off. almost
Yeah.
show them off, because they've been I mean they've kind of like been hidden, but we've got all these like little hidden gems which we need to now help other organizations get out there into the open and see that, oh, you know what, the value of
Yeah.
utilizing all these individuals is
Yeah.
it's endless. So
Yeah. So I mean, those are success stories. Like, I would bet every company in both markets has hired a veteran that has been a great employee. I would bet every single company has done that. And
yeah,
you know, you should, that's a success story. You should celebrate that. You should talk about it and promote it. I mean, that's the why. That's why we do this. So the more you talk about it, the more it's going to happen, right?
yeah,
Like, that's a success story that should be promoted. But you know, back to being intentional, like, I think also be realistic. Um, you know, whether you're a gigantic company with a huge program or you're very small, like, set goals that are realistic and manage to those goals. And if you
yeah.
need to start small, like, write better job descriptions and hire 1% more a year, if that's what it needs to be, that's fine, but manage to that, you know?
hmm I think one of the other things as well is we need to aim to get individuals or companies to work with more clients on their veteran schemes, helping to maximise the best possible outcome for the businesses and veterans interested in furthering their career. So I think that's a very valid point as well.
Yeah.
What we need to do.
Yeah. So that's another point, is like, you don't need to do this alone. Like, there's thousands of organizations out there, most of them are free, that want to help. And as a
Yeah.
company, your veteran hiring program can partner with these organizations. You know, you don't need to go it alone. Like, there's tons of opportunities to partner. You know, we certainly do that at Indotronics. Like, we partner with our customers, we partner with other organizations, with the government. You know, network and partner, because all of those things are out there to help.
Yeah. I think one of the last things what we could do, or we should be doing, or we will do, is to like gather our own data from the veterans what we work with, allowing them to voice their views, and together find ways to provide further assistance to support, inform, and potentially deploy them into their next chapter in their career. Because there's no point just saying, "Oh, we're going to do this," if we're not listening to what they have to say as well. So for me, that's very important, and for the business is very important as well. And only that way we would then be able to work with our partners, clients, thinking along the same wavelength and making sure that we're servicing these veterans as good as possible.
Exactly. That's great. All right.
I think that we have a couple questions, so I do want to make sure that we have some time to address those briefly.
Sure.
Let's see here. Ray, I noticed that the veteran numbers were for England and Wales. Is it because they are the largest representation?
Yes, yes, it is. Obviously, for England and Wales, what tends to happen is a lot of individuals that are part of the UK and Wales, they then do get deployed, but then they will get deployed to places like Scotland and over to Ireland as well. So the numbers mainly come from England and Wales. That's why.
Okay, that makes sense. Um, and then the next question that we have is, can you share some specific ways that CTP helps veterans? And are there any organizations that help veterans transition in terms of mental wellness?
Specifically, what CTP would do is they can come into a business. So just say, for instance, they just say they worked with us. They would then come into our business and sit down with us, and then we would talk to them about the types of veterans we get on board. They would then say, right, these are the types of programs and skills what we can give these individuals, whether it be skills in software, cybersecurity, IT, marketing, in order to help get them into these additional organizations. They're not just going to come and just give them basic maths and English. They can do that, but they want to give them actual qualifications, where what tends to happen is there may be a client who says, right, you know what, I need 12 maintenance engineers to work on this kind of project come February. And then they will say, oh, okay, great, we're working with a certain client, we'll be able to provide that for you, and help to pick individuals, 12 individuals through a course where they've ticked off that box, where they've got their qualification. Obviously, they've got the background of being in the military as well. They've come out, they've got all these transferable skills as well as this qualification, what they've just done. So then the client's already agreed, yeah, we want someone with that qualification and these skills, and then they get deployed straight into that role. And that's one of the things what CTP helped to do.
Awesome. Kyle, I'll start off with you on this next question that we have. What partnerships with military transition programs, both in the US and UK, have been effective that you've seen?
Well, to me, the best answer to that question is the ones you put the time into. Because, there's so many. And, I mentioned that, like, the Texas Vet Commission, like we've had success there here at our company. But I'll be honest, like, that didn't just happen from a phone call. Like, I had to put my time in, develop those relationships, and do work with them to better understand them so that they could better understand our needs. And that will be true of any program, like whether you're just operating with a TAPS office at a base or something like Vets Commission, like, and develop the relationship. It's not just something that happens overnight. So that's the way I would answer that.
Awesome. I think that's the last question that we have. I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I do want to thank both of you for doing this today and taking time out of your day. Ray, I know it's pretty late there in England, so thank you so much. Yes, go ahead.
Sina, there is one more question over there. If you scroll down. I haven't
seen it.
From Ramesh.
Oh, I just asked, so we just covered that one.
Oh, you did. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I think there are a couple of people typing in questions as well.
Okay, chop. Okay, I'll just give them a few seconds to finish their question. But I do have a screen up that has all our social media platforms listed, and we will be sending this out on those platforms. If you're so inclined to follow us, here's where you can, and we will have a live recording on there of this webinar. And as I said, there will be more to come with this series. So I'll just give it a second. I think a couple more people have questions. Ray, what time is it there anyways?
Past my bedtime. No joke. It's 7:45 at the present time. It's 7:45.
I think one of your teammates just wanted to say great work doing this. So thank you, Joseph. Perfect.
Great question.
Thank you both for your time. And I hope both of you have a great holiday season, and everyone in the audience as well. So until next time, bye.
Well, brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.